Earlier, I spoke with James Andrew Lewis, director of the Strategic Technologies Program with the Center for Strategic International Studies, and I asked him why the U.S. is bringing these charges now, especially in this public manner.
The U.S. has been talking to China about cyber espionage, economic espionage, for 4 years at the minister level, at the senior military level, and last year at the first presidential summit. So they felt like they'd been trying in private for a long time and weren't getting anywhere. There was very little positive reaction from the Chinese.
So what does it think it can accomplish by going forward in this manner?
One of the things it does is it reaffirms to China that this is a serious bilateral issue. It's not going to go away. You can't ignore it. Because that's been the practice in the past. I mean, the president raises it at a summit, and the reaction is kind of, that's really interesting. We'll get back to you, right? This puts it on the public agenda. It's an important item for the bilateral relationship.
Is it hypocritical for the U.S. to do something like this when it's still dealing with the NSA scandal? Can other countries press charges against the United States there?
No, because there is no international law governing espionage. Countries don't want international law on espionage because they all do it. There is international law on the protection of trade secrets, on the protection of intellectual property. That's the WTO, and China signed those commitments. In some ways, what the U.S. is saying to China is, you joined the WTO, live up to your commitments, play by the rules. And no one can say that about Snowden. There is no law on espionage.
Well, what will come out of these charges? Could it ever be prosecuted? Where could it go?
No, you'll never see a case. You'll never see a trial because countries do this all the time. The UAE did it to Israel a few years ago. No one expects these people to be extradited or stand trial in the U.S. It's a way to send a very important signal to Beijing. This is a serious matter, and you need to pull back a little bit. We see this relatively frequently in the world. It's not intended to lead to trial. It's intended to lead to some kind of diplomatic resolution.
How do you think this move will affect U.S.-China relations?
Well, the relations have been getting worse every year, and I think that Americans worry about that. How can we reestablish better ties with China? It's hard when the Chinese government doesn't always speak, at least in public, very openly about things that it's doing. So you have a range of problems now. It's still better for both countries to find a way to cooperate, but if we can't get cyber espionage under control, that will be more and more difficult to do.